here with Jim Newman, who is the Information Security Manager at Yaya Finance. Now, Jim, you've worked in a few different industries, so do you find that security differs between industry, or do you think it's the same pretty much wherever you go?
Well, Yaya Finance are a more regulated industry, so the last couple of companies I've worked for have all been fintechs. So we've got more regulation, we've got more compliance to deal with, which actually has benefited us in security, because you're not just saying, this is what I think we need to do, these are the risks, this is what we need to do, secure it. You are able to say, well, actually, there is an obligation on us. There is a regulatory obligation on us to carry out some of these things. So it gives you something to fall back on when all the other armour is empty and somebody is fighting any kind of budget ask. So yes, I find that element of it's good. And the other problem, though, is it's finance. A lot of the information we've got access to is the sort of information that isn't just some data that somebody could leverage, but it's the sort of data that people can leverage to really make money, because compromise accounts, get hold of card numbers, manipulate payment systems. It just means, in terms of target, that we potentially have people coming after us.
Now, Yaya are relatively new to the market, so do you find that the risks are greater to you right now?
Well, it's funny you say that. So we're not just relatively new, we're completely new. There's only a handful of people using the beta product at the moment, and the company's kind of risk profile, the way we've analysed it, is at the moment is relatively low, because we're flying under the radar. There's only a handful of people's data in that system. With the plans for scale up and the way that we're looking to grow, I imagine that in 6, 9, 12 months' time we'll be a much bigger target, because we'll have a big bucket of data that people will want to get their hands on. So acutely aware of the fact that we need to be making sure we get enough security control in place now, so that somebody isn't persistent and still there by the time we get to 6 months, but also that we're building out a program that means in 6 months' time, 9 months' time, 12 months' time, actually that security is fit for purpose for the organisation we want to be. You know, right now it's a young company, it's fledgling, and so you look at it and say, well, the security posture and the security maturity is reasonable for where we are, but in terms of where we're going, we have got to do the following things and ramp it up, and we've got to ramp it up fast in order to keep up with the way that the company's looking to scale.
Now, you are kind of in the dream role. You are in a greenfield site. It's no legacy tech to deal with. You can do kind of what you need to do. Is that really the dream, or is it
honestly,
hard?
For me, it's the dream. It is, yeah, it is my dream role, because the company is exciting, they're innovative, they are not afraid of change. If you've got a way of doing something that challenges existing kind of methodology, they're willing to let you have a try, want it to be data-led, want to be able to prove that it works. But the bit about no legacy tech, obviously the stack that's been built so far has been built in a way that's secure, but looking at it and saying, well, actually, I would want to improve the following things. They're open arms to everything that I kind of want to do, and to be able to say, here are our priorities. It's nice because I report into risk, so the business has already demonstrated that it understands that security is not a function of IT, it's a function of risk. It just happens that we've got a lot of touch points that are IT touch points. And actually that innovative nature and the sort of creative startup feel really works for me. Small organisation where when you want to make a change, providing you've got backing for it, providing it's justified, that it happens really fast. I love that, and live for it. It's exciting.
So it is the dream.
For me, it's the dream. I think some people would come in and say, this is chaos, we don't know what we're going to do next. This is, you know, but actually I like that. I think a lot of people, the chaos, and there's a lot of moving parts, and we start to secure something and say, this is how we're going to approach it. And then somebody comes and says, actually, everything on that whiteboard that we've already designed, that's out the window. We've decided we're going to do something completely different. So all that work goes out and you say, okay, well, all right, how are we going to threat model this? What do we need to do now? So yeah, I quite like the fact that things are getting torn down and built up because somebody has rationalised a better way of doing it. It's, like I say, it's exciting. There are frustrations, there's frustrations in everything, but yeah, there's never a dull moment, and there is an absolute kind of mountain to climb. But, I've got an ice pick and a backpack. I'm ready to go.
Brilliant. So you mentioned that you report into risk. Do you think more companies should have their security teams report to risk?
Yes. I was going to give a long answer, but yeah, absolutely. I don't understand the model where security reports into IT, and I understand where the legacy of that is. I can see why it's come from that, because a lot of IT teams, what you've got is people who've got sysadmin skills and who understand how to secure networks, and they sit within an IT team, and so that's where your skill base is, and that's where those people have traditionally come from. But actually, we need to be highlighting what the risks are to the business, and we need to be identifying what those controls are. We aren't necessarily the people that then implement those controls, but the reason I'm in my role is that I've got kind of a foot in both camps. I can understand the governance elements, and I can understand the corporate strategy, where the business is going, and then identify what program we need to get there to align security with the business objectives. But then at the same time, when we need to do a piece on access control, I can roll up my sleeves, I can dive in, I can script. I'm not a good coder, so I'm not really a good programmer, but I can script things, I can work with it, and I understand the technology that's underpinning it. So it's being able to take those other elements and marry them together, rather than saying we've got people who've got really deep technical skill, who understand how to secure a network. They're not looking at what are all of the risks that we face as a business, because it becomes a little bit siloed.
And we are asking security people to become more business focused, but perhaps not backing that up with reporting lines.
Well, absolutely. The reporting line is one element of it, but also being able to justify to the business why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you're in an IT team, your budget is part of an overall IT budget. And actually the things that you do arguably slow down what your network's doing, because you're putting agents on endpoints, you're putting devices in between traffic. So you slow down what the business is doing, and you cost it money. Whereas if you're a function of risk and you're saying, well, actually, here is a risk, here are the controls and what they cost, it's up to you as the business to decide whether you want to address that risk or accept it. And if the business's appetite for risk is really high, as a security professional, you have to decide whether that aligns with your own view of your place within the organisation. But if you're able to justify it and give them the data that says this is how likely this risk is to actually affect us, and this is what the impact is, in the event of something going wrong, at least you've done your job, you've done the due diligence, the business knew and was aware of what those risks were, and you've provided them with your professional opinion of the best way of going about trying to control them. The juggling act is trying to highlight what those priorities are and trying to measure it, because it's a huge finger in the air. I think the likelihood of this happening is X. At the moment, our own organisation, we don't have enough data to be able to back up, okay, we know this is happening at the moment. We can see what's happening on our networks, we can see what's happening on our systems, but we don't have enough data to be able to now really start saying this is a problem for us, this has affected us X number of times. The incidents that I'm dealing with in the 6 weeks that I've been there are a kind of common theme, but I don't have enough data to say, oh, this isn't just a statistical anomaly, we've just had a blip over 6 weeks. So being able to get something to justify what we're doing. Yeah.
Okay. And if you look forward to the coming 12 months within cybersecurity, what do you think we're going to see happen?
Do you know, I've been proved wrong already in the last couple of years. I thought with GDPR coming, and I still think there's a possibility, is that ransomware, there's a trick to getting ransomware onto a bunch of machines, and actually the reward for it seems minimal. With cryptocurrency prices kind of falling, yes, if you can get crypto onto sites, onto servers running in the background, and you can stay persistent, you might be able to make some money mining crypto. But I still see data as the way for criminals to be making money. Because with GDPR fines and regulatory issues around data, I just kind of, well, maybe we are seeing it and we just don't know, because it just makes sense to be able to pull some data from someone and ransom the data back to them. Why say we're going to lock down all your servers and everything else when you can just say we've got your data and we're not going to do anything with it if you pay us X amount of money, But otherwise, we're going to put it on paste bin, and then you'll have fines, PR disaster, and all the other problems that come with an investigation after the event. So I still see data as being key. We've got to protect that data because the value to us, as well as to our customers, is huge. You know, that privacy angle. And I think the sort of flip side of that is, as businesses, you look at what happened with Cambridge Analytica and the way in which people are increasingly distrusting social media platforms. And as consumers, we are starting to get a little more savvy about what information we share with platforms. I think the privacy angle is something where public sentiment is kind of going in a particular direction. And as businesses, we need to align with that. You know, I always, in all of the security jobs I've done, I've always treated it as, I want that data to have the same level of protection as though it was my data. And a lot of the time it is. So it's making sure that it's treated correctly by the people in the chain who are wanting to do things with that data, but also that you've got the controls so that it's less likely to be breached, or in the event of a breach, that it's meaningless to whoever it is that's managed to get it off your systems. You know, the classic kind of assume breach and have some resilience in place. Well, okay, so you've got a dump of the database, but it's meaningless because these bits are encrypted and the keys are somewhere nice and safe, so you're able to kind of, yeah, that's fine, you've got the data, but you can't do anything with it. You can't identify those individuals. You can't draw anything from the patterns. Good luck with that. So I think data's a big part of it. I think the other thing that we're going to see is, because so many workloads have already moved to the cloud or are moving to the cloud, that we'll see an increase in the sophistication of attacks on cloud infrastructure. But I think the other side that comes with that is the risk of user error, because we're asking DevOps teams, in some cases, to build the infrastructure in code, but we're asking them to do all of the pieces of the chain now. And sometimes, in my experience, we're asking people who don't necessarily understand the security implications of that. And the security teams are often getting involved a little bit late in the process when something's already been built, or it's at a testing stage and there's pressure on that team to get it out and running and functionality ready. But the security's not there because the people who've been asked to build it aren't necessarily experts in that particular field. And I think we're going to see more security misconfigurations as a result of user error, not because people are idiots and not because there's any will to do these things, but purely because the pressure that's being put on development teams to just get it out as quick as possible. They're doing the best they can with coding, but I think we're going to see some security misconfigurations happen that will result in, you know, your S3 bucket being left open, for example. But I think we're going to see slightly more sophisticated issues as a result of it.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's been really interesting. Thank you very much for speaking with us.